Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Seder Academy. Today, we're going to try to actually answer everyone's questions about Zoom Seder. Liel and Josh have done a lot of research for us, and they have a lot of really great, helpful tips. I actually want to just start with my own tip, which is, as you see, I put on lipstick for the first time in 2 weeks, which I would like to make a suggestion to all of you that you take the opportunity of your Zoom Seder to finally shower, put on something nice, put on some makeup. Beyond that, I'm not going to be that helpful today because I have, I think, as many questions as all of you. Steph, where are you at right now?
I brushed my hair.
Great.
I didn't put contacts in, but I will. I think that's a smart thing. I mean, it's sort of like that Shabbat idea that you sort of like look nice. I mean, we all have reverted to a level of filthiness, right? Like no one's. I'm not wearing proper pants. I'm wearing leggings right now, and I might wear leggings for the Seder because I anticipate doing a lot of eating. But no, I think that's right. I mean, basically, seeing all these people just like putting on your best face will also make all of us feel better. Liel, I appreciate you doing that.
Josh and I looked like this before social distancing started.
I just invited an extra person to our Seder. There weren't enough people.
Great. We need the more, the merrier. So basically, the way we'll let people trickle in for a little bit longer, we'll sort of tell you more about ourselves. But the way today is going to run is that Josh is going to walk us all through how to use Zoom, how to host a Zoom Seder, and then Liel is going to take on some of the more rabbinic, religious side of the differences of what this year is going to look like. And then after that, we'll all be asking them a series of questions.
Great. The only other last thing I want to say is the other set of questions that have been coming in are about food and food prep. That is not what this particular day is focused on. We're really trying to give you guys bite-size help here. So today is really going to be focused on everyone's questions about Zoom and about leading a Seder ritual with, through a screen, which is going to be very particular. Any questions that you have about cooking for a small group, cooking for yourself, we're going to try to answer those later in the week. And we have actually some very special guests that are going to join us to help us, but we'll announce that as soon as that comes in. So do you guys want to start? Should we get into it?
Hallelujah.
Okay.
Wait,
all right.
I do want to start with something. I read about Zoom bombing, Josh.
Yeah.
That's something we should be scared of this year? I got an article sent to me about it.
Well, Steph, can you tell everyone what that is?
Yeah, I mean, Josh, basically, will you walk us through? It sounds like it's when someone crashes your Zoom and you're not prepared for it. Like someone sort of like trolls you.
Right. I think that the approach that we need to take to things like Zoom bombing and the big threats about that, and there's a great article that we will share afterwards that sort of gives a rundown of all things you can do. It's kind of like those scam phone calls that if you pay attention to what's happening and you're smart, or not even smart, if you just don't do something that isn't common sense, you'll be fine. There's not a massive risk of being Zoom bombed. Number one, and I'll show you where we do this, just make sure you have a password that you've only shared with the people that are getting this, and you're fine. And tell everybody who you're inviting, don't share this with anybody who's not invited. If some random person calls and say, what's your Zoom thing? Don't share it. But realistically, as long as you follow common sense settings, who wants to Zoom bomb somebody's random Seder? It's not the risk. It's just about being smart. We don't need to stress about that. And really, stress is the thing that I think is the least thing we need to have across all of this. Whatever we're going to do here, however you choose to run your Seder, the number one thing to remember is you're doing what you can. And if it's not perfect, it's still your Seder. So don't stress about it. Don't worry about it. We'll be fun.
Take us away on how to actually do this.
Well, here's the real thing to recognize first. When I grew up, and I know a lot of people generally have somebody who leads their Seder year in and year out. The person who's doing that cannot be the person who is dealing with Zoom. This is an extra job that we don't normally have. So for our little practice Seder, because it's what we're going to do. Liel is going to be the leader. He's running the Seder. He's the spot of my grandfather sitting at the end of the table with the book and pointing at people and telling them what to do. I am and he's got the best beard. I'll admit it. So what I am going to do is I'm going to play the role, as usual, of the producer, where I am basically the extension of what he wants, I make happen. So if right now, Sarah, for example, needed to say something and she is muted, so Sarah, say something before you touch anything. Can't hear her. Now I can unmute her, and now she can talk.
Now you can all hear the very important things I have to say.
Now,
not anymore. And so now I've muted her. And so the thing is that Liel is going to be the guy saying, all right, it's your turn to read this passage, do that. And then the person who is controlling the Zoom, it's their only job. And they're not necessarily going to get a part. We can find a way to do that if you want to complicate things. But their whole role is to make sure things happen.
And so step one, thou shalt designate a nerd to be the person actually operating the Zoom. It could be whoever you want. It could be, the college kid who's super into things. It could be your aunt who's spends her days playing online games. Whoever it is that has some tech affinity, that's the person actually operating the Zoom.
But wouldn't it be easier if the person who's operating the Zoom and the leader are physically in the same place?
That's obviously ideal, but I would take tech skills. Like Liel and I are in different places right now,
Okay.
but there are a lot of ways for us to be chatting.
Okay.
So that Liel and I can chat on the side with ourselves. And yes, it's ideal that if they're in the same space, but it's not mandatory. And so I think what you want to have is whomever is best at World of Warcraft, or whoever actually knows what Twitch or Discord is and how to run those things. These are buzzwords that my mom doesn't know, but definitely is a thing that there's somebody who's technical enough. It's the kid who always gets called to do technical support for everybody's uncle. That's the person you want.
By the way, this is a great job. This is a great job that didn't exist. Like there are people whose skills are in this arena who like don't always get to shine at a Seder. So I like to think of this as like a nice promotion.
You get to mute Uncle Benji. It's very exciting.
As the leader, I am calling for no more interruptions, and I'm asking Josh to tell us how to create a Zoom meeting, please.
Okay, so the first thing we need to do is before we're actually having our meeting is you need to set this up. So really quick, I grabbed some stuff in PowerPoint, and you're all going to be able to steal my information, so don't Zoom bomb me. But let me share this PowerPoint that has a few images in it so that we'll show you how to actually why is this not doing this now? Okay, can you guys see my PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay. For some reason, I need to do a thing. All right. So the first screen here is when you open Zoom on the computer, and I assume that whomever is going to do this has installed Zoom. Zoom works great on a desktop. It works great on a laptop. It works fine on a phone and a tablet. And the reason we recommend Zoom, as other people may ask, is it works on everything. And I find it to be most effective across everything versus anything else. So this is the initial screen. So what you want to do, because you're planning your Seder in advance, is actually schedule it in advance. You're not going to use this personal meeting ID, because that's the kind of thing that can be stolen off a video like this, and people can get in. So you're going to click this little button up here. And when you click that little button up here, you're going to get a window that looks like this. Now, this is the window for scheduling a meeting, and it's cut off at the top. I apologize. A bad screenshot job on my part. But basically, by default, it's going to fill in the topic. You can change it to your Seder. Set your date here. Make sure you've noted the time zone so that everybody gets it, obviously. Now, meeting ID, you want to leave it to generate automatically. Don't set it to personal, because that's what. Make sure you set a password. You want a password on for obvious reasons. I recommend the next section is optional. That video for the host and the participants starts as off. You can turn that on.
Does the password have to be numbers? Can it be a word?
Honestly, I can't get that field in front of me right now, but okay. I believe it should be. If it's a word, I highly recommend. The best password security is not one of those big, goofy, wanky passwords with symbols and stuff. Pick 4 words that don't have any relation, like cookie, lipstick, cat, Liel, and make that your password, because it's easy to remember when you read it, but it's not easy to hack because they have nothing to do with each other. And that's good password security for anything. If it's just numbers, come up with some good numbers, but I bet you can put text in there. So then Underneath that with video, I recommend that you have everybody set to off, because you don't know when somebody signs in that they haven't quite sat down and they're in a nice shirt and they've put on a tie, but they're in their underpants. So especially for this, because we're all remote, I recommend leaving it off and letting them either ask to switch it on, or you switch it on once you know they're there. Audio, the default setting is telephone and computer, and you'll see that when we schedule it, there is a way to call into this. Obviously, it's more ideal if you're doing something with video, but if somebody just has a phone, they still can get in. Now, I also say you should set up down here in the calendar. I think by default, it's set to Google Calendar. I could be wrong about that, but it doesn't matter, because what I want you to do is set it to other calendars, and I'll explain why in a second. Then this advanced options window is usually closed. You're just going to click on the arrow to do it. Do not click enable join before host. This gives you the control. This gives the leader and the producer who's running it, the ability to let things come in and not be haphazard for people. You definitely want to, in my opinion, mute participants on entry so that when people come in, they're not screaming, and then you can unmute them or they can unmute themselves. And then the last one is record the meeting automatically on the local computer. That's up to you. I mean, I'm actually recording this right now, but I don't know that you actually need to do that. Once you've set all these settings, click on schedule. And because you've set other calendar, you're going to wind up with a screen like this rather than it trying to give you a calendar thing. This is a screen that's just basic text that you can copy into an email. It even has a button that says copy invitation. So when you click on that right there, and this, before I do that, let me show you that this contains the information, including the link to get in, plus the meeting ID and the password that you can email to people.
Which, by the way, those of you who are stressing out now about password, it almost doesn't matter because you have it right here in the email. You can copy paste it into the Zoom.
Exactly. So you click copy invitation, and then you paste it right. Like this is what happened when I opened up a new email in my email program, and that's what it did. Perfect, just like that. And so you send off your emails to your people. Please BCC. Come on. And then once you've sent that off, this is what it's going to look like back in the Zoom window once it's created. You're going to see that at whatever date there is the meeting that you've created with the information there. And then if you select that, you'll see over here you have options to start it, copy the invitation, make changes, delete it. Don't worry about join from a room. Don't worry about anything else. Okay. So that's really what it is to create them.
I would tell everyone that you also made a really good idea for those of you who are not necessarily in huge organizations, but may have a bunch of people. I would do a trial run at some point, just so that whoever's running the tech, and also everyone, all the participants, you know how to set it up, and the participants know how to sign in. I wouldn't wait. If you can wait, I wouldn't wait until the night of the Seder to actually do it, because I think everyone's going to have a million questions anyway.
Right.
So you might want to cut those off.
Now, Josh,
right.
once we're in the Seder itself, the Seder has begun. Before we get into tips on how to actually run it, from a technical standpoint, what else do people need to know about manipulating the screen, etc.?
Right. So I think one of the things that you want to think about is there's two different views that can be set from this side, and I'm not sure how this reflects for you all, but I'm pretty sure that I can change it for you. Is right now we have it set to speaker view, which means at the remote end of people, they're seeing just me right now because I'm blabbing. But what you can do is if you put your mouse over anybody else's picture, even though I'm talking, if I want to make sure that Alana is spotlighted, I can set it so that everybody is looking at Alana even though I'm speaking. Now, I can also then undo that. At the top of anybody's picture when you're driving and you have the screen with multiple ones, there's a little menu, it's 3 dots. And then I can, where is it? Cancel the spotlight video. The text says cancel the spotlight video. And now it's not focusing, it shouldn't be focusing on Alana anymore. And so now it should go back to bouncing between. But I think in general, once you're getting started, until the leader passes off to other people, you may want to do the thing where the person who is leading is spotlighted. So let's spotlight Liel, who's then going to give me some instructions and start to sort of run it. And that's how it'll go. So we'll leave him spotlighted for now, even though I'm talking. Because, yeah, I'm trying to read the books in the background. So then right now Stephanie is muted and she starts talking but doesn't realize she's muted and can't figure it out. If I'm looking over there's a button down at the
Hey,
bottom
Josh,
that says,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Erica noticed that in her view, she has a gallery of all 5 of us, and the
right.
speakers highlighted. So I don't know that the spotlight. Can you maybe tell people how to make the spotlight work?
No, it was working. She's just no.
Yeah, no, responding correctly. Now she can only see it.
Now she can only see it.
I clicked on the gallery view just so we see all of us. Now Josh
Right.
brought us back to spotlight view. But I
have left it as spotlight.
Admin privileges here, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say Stephanie started to talk, for example, or Liel said, Stephanie, can you read the next thing? And she can't find her button. Well, the thing is that we don't want to worry about Aunt Mary who can't find the thing.
Hold on.
You
Erica
can go
prefers gallery so she could see everyone. So here you go, Erica. We're all on the screen now.
Now I have unmuted Stephanie, and she should be able. Why is it not unmuting? Now, Stephanie, have you muted yourself on your end? Yes, because Liel is still spotlighted. I have to cancel the spotlight as the person who has hosted the meeting, and now it should switch around.
Does it? Wait, hold on. Let's wait because I actually want to
now
walk
switching
people
around.
through it.
Yeah, now it should now be switching to the speaker.
So it's right that you guys are only seeing Liel.
Not anymore because he's not pinned.
Great. Okay.
Great.
I think
Erica
it's
sees
now
everybody.
working.
Terrific. Bear in mind, this is a fantastic opportunity to remind everyone that this is a piece of software, and like all software, this will have glitches. Nothing here will ever be perfect, but here you go. We've just solved the problem. Now, Stephanie, why can't you talk?
Now, I've tried to unmute her, and it's actually not letting me, hence a glitch. Now, I'm going to spotlight her. Talk, Stephanie, please.
Oh, I'm unmuted. I think it's my computer.
Right.
Am I still muted?
No.
I'm getting like a gazillion messages across my screen, and so I think, but I did get a message that said the host would like to unmute your microphone. My computer is like on the brink here, but this is the sign I made that says it's my computer. And then here's my other.
Hold on 1 second. I know you guys have questions like Erica and Rabbi Irit, Prince. I see them. If we can hold those till we go to the question and answer, like we'll get to them. I promise you. It'll all make sense. We're sort of showing out how this works, and we'll get to them.
I also want to say, now that I'm unmuted, this should be funny. Like, this shouldn't be stressful. Like, we are telling you how to do this, and we are having problems ourselves. Like, we have to sort of go with the flow, and like the producer can't get stressed if you can't unmute Uncle Al. Like we sort of, everyone needs to sort of be free with what's going to happen, because as Liel said, we are submitting ourselves to technology.
Right. So basically, the best thing to do, and this is what we're doing now, and as we've said, and once we've decided to relax about it, is to close the doors behind us when our children are screaming, and then remember that if something goes wrong, it's okay. We're going to relax, and then we're going to go and test beforehand. And even if it's only 3 or 4 of you, you test beforehand, and you make it work as well as you can. And if it's not perfect, who cares?
Okay.
So, Liel, if we're going to run a service, what are we going to do?
I now want to take a very different note than Josh's kind of relaxed atmospherics. In previous years, I would say that my Seder guests' least favorite feature of the Seder is me, because I run a Seder much like kind of like a chain gang and a maximum security prison. I have very specific assigned role, and you cannot kind of deviate from them at all. Now, in regular years, that is a silly thing to do because people just want to hang out and talk to each other, have a good time, and get through the Haggadah and do whatever they want to do. In a year like this, I think the approach of very, very clear, strict roles actually makes a lot of sense. So the overall theme of what I'm going to say here is basically prepare, prepare, prepare. The more you know in advance, the more you kind of script this, the easier it's going to go.
I think that's a very key. I'm going to highlight that, guys.
Right.
The more you script this, the better.
Right.
I actually think we're all stressing out about the technology. The technology is going to be, it's going to work or be glitchy. You can teach it to yourself as much as we can or not. But preparing for the rhythm of this ritual is going to help you so much. And if you've decided to take on being a leader, there's nothing, you don't need to know anything, except you need to actually be willing to engage with the idea of how this night is going to flow.
Correct.
And if you can do that, I think Liel is totally right.
Which is a sentence I do not hear often, so I really admire
Savor it.
Appreciate the sentiment. Before we even begin, we talked a little bit about having this moment of maybe testing how the Zoom works. A good idea that Alana shared with me the other day is maybe all have the Zoom call a day before, or the Zoom test run call a day in advance. Maybe you do it as everyone's in the kitchen making charoset. Maybe you make the same charoset, so there's at least one dish, one recipe that you all share in advance, that wherever you are with your families, you know that when you test the charoset, it is going to taste the same no matter where you are. That gives you an opportunity both to create kind of like a meaningful item on the Seder table, and also to check that the Zoom is working. That is preparation item number one. Preparation number two, and by far the most important, is this this here handsome thing. This is Tablet's Passover Haggadah, which we will make available as an ebook. But any Haggadah that you have, the key thing is this: the person running the Seder has to do something really, really simple. That person has to make sure that we're all using the same Haggadah. So it's not like page 32 is an illustration for me and not Chad Gadya. Like, it has to be the same version. And second of all, that person then has to go ahead and create a kind of to-do list. Who's reading what? When I run a normal Seder, I basically try to kind of put things or assign things to people according to all kinds of metrics. You know, if it's a person who's a very good reader, that person gets a kind of hefty Charlton Heston-like text filled with, you know, pathos. If it's a person who's not really comfortable with public speaking gigs, give them a really, really, really short thing. If there's a cool thing in Hebrew and you know that like the Hebrew school ace is dying to do it, give it to them, etc. If I were running the Seder this year, what I would do is, and this may sound cruel, but I think it's very effective, you mute everyone. You start off when only the leaders sing. And then you say, okay, and now we will read, and everyone has a kind of script. You could actually, and it's kind of a good idea, to create a shared document, like a Google Doc in advance, something that all the family could see, so everyone could see and prepare in advance what parts they're reading. And then the host could say, or the leader could say something like, and now we will read the fourth son. To read the wise son, you know, here is Uncle Joe. And then unmute Uncle Joe, let Uncle Joe read this, and then mute Uncle Joe and move on to the next participant, with a leader kind of assigning roles as we go along, like a conductor of an orchestra. Otherwise, if you leave everyone unmuted, you're going to have so much cacophony that I guarantee that 6 minutes in, we've had calls with the kids here like, let's all do Kabbalat Shabbat. It was so much freaking noise that 3 minutes in, everyone was like, yeah, this isn't working for us. We're going to go and drink alone in our rooms right now. So the best way to do it is have a kind of script, send everyone in advance. You'll be reading this, or that, and then build into the script a kind of maybe 4, maybe 5, as many moments as you want, where everyone could be unmuted and everyone could talk and everyone could be together. Luckily, this thing has songs in it throughout. There's the Manishtana, there's the Chad Miotea, there's Chad Gadya at the end. Songs are a great way to just like unmute everyone, let everyone sing. Now, a bunch of you asked us, is there a good way to do the songs, to sing the songs? Because Zoom, again, being a software, there is a very quick, maybe a second, maybe half a second of a lag, and it's a little bit annoying. But here's the thing, like, you're not a Broadway show chorus, right? Like, your family, and it's going to sound kind of, even if you were all in the same room, it would still sound kind of, not exactly the greatest quality singing. So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and sing, and it's going to be fine. But here's another great opportunity to be really well prepared, because you may have people on the Seder who have all sorts of different wacky tunes. So the person leading the Seder, as part of his or her preparation in advance, could, for example, go on YouTube, find videos of tunes, melodies that he or she likes, and then send them to everyone, being like, by the way, this year, the Chad Gadya would be sung to the tune of this. or even record themselves singing it in advance and then send it out. And so in short, start off by some kind of recipe cook-off / Zoom test run. Second of all, create a shared Google document on which your leader says who does what. Third of all, leader then points the attention, and then the producer kind of unmutes and spotlights the person speaking. Fourth of all, everyone could have 4 or 5 or 6 moments in which everyone comes together and sings. Sixth of all melodies and other things that you want to share, make sure that you share in advance, and you will have, if nothing else, a very orderly Seder.
And if I can reiterate, though, if it doesn't wind up being orderly, that's okay too. Really, it's okay. The thing that I keep saying to people that I really want them to remember is that we need to follow the KISS method. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's keep it simple, stupid. There are probably really creative ways to share YouTube videos of songs or be trying to click and do countdowns and stuff, but it's just going to make you more stressed out, like having a cat climb up into your face.
Right.
So the best thing to do is it's never going to be perfect, because like Liel said, even if you were all in the same room, it wouldn't be perfect. It's going to be good though, and you're still going to be able to commune with your family. And so I think we're almost there. They can correct me if I'm wrong, to where we sort of actually want to actively take a few more questions, or a pile of questions, and hopefully answer a bunch of things for you.
So come at us. What else can we say? Other ideas that you'd like to share? Questions you have? Anything at all?
While those are trickling in, and please use the Q&A part as opposed to the chat, because it's easier to keep track of them. I'll give you a few tips that I figured out. For starters, if you have a laptop to use rather than a tablet or a phone, it definitely does work better. Obviously, if your desktop or your iMac or whatever is appropriately placed or movable, that's great too. But definitely the more powerful machine, even though it's just a web app, it will work better that way. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. We will have some bandwidth, that if a lot of people are doing things and every Jew that you know on the planet is at the same time in your time zone doing the same thing, maybe we're eating up bandwidth. Then it's you don't need to have, if you're keeping the peace, but you shouldn't have Netflix running in the next room, and try to keep the pipes open for anything.
Before Josh gets to the questions that are coming in, I want to say something about time limitations, which is something that a bunch of people are concerned with. You have 2 options here. There is, in the kind of like basic level of Zoom, a 40-minute time limitation. You can do one of 2 things. The first thing is to upgrade for, I believe, $15, right, Josh, a month?
Yeah, and honestly, if you can spring for it, it's like, again, very simple, and then your time limit's gone, and then you cancel at the end of the month, and for $15, you don't have to think about it.
That's option number 1. Option number 2, keeping with Josh's keep it simple, stupid method, is you could very easily start this thing, and 40 minutes later it lapses, and everybody knows that, and then you take a deep breath and you start it again, and you have another 40 minutes, and it's not a big deal.
To answer one question really quick, Erica, Zoom, you can have all of us talk over each other. Like, Liel, start talking. Alana, please start talking.
I will
Stephanie,
start talking. It will sound,
and you're going to
start
hear all of
talking.
us.
I agree with the song thing
There you
Liel
go.
said, by
And
the
now it's
way.
really
Yes.
cacophonous, and it's awful, and I'm going to mute you all.
See?
So yes, you can do that. And so we can all have our usual fights that we have, and, virtual scallion slinging and whatnot. Yeah, and then again, Gary, to your question, how do you suggest handling a group sing? Yeah, unmute everyone. People can unmute themselves. You do your best with it. It's, again, yeah, just unmute everybody so we can all sing a song. Now it's going to be horrible.
I will say with specifically in a bunch of Zoom meetings where people, it is difficult because you have lags on both ends.
Just like
so
we're
that's a
experiencing
decision
now.
that you have to make personally. If you want people, if you're 3 cups in and everyone's fine with not knowing what anyone else is saying, that's fine. But it is distracting with the singing and the lag.
Correct.
And the unstable internet connection.
So Josh, Barbara is asking, how are you getting these amazing host powers? Are you doing this as a webinar or a regular Zoom meeting?
This is a webinar which creates this subcategory. It divides people in the meeting into panelists and attendees, but the default setting if you're not running a webinar, which comes with a paid thing. So if you get paid, you can run a webinar. Is everybody, the 5 of us that are on your screen right now, are all operating as panelists, but those panelists are like a regular person in a regular Zoom meeting if it wasn't a webinar. If it was just a meeting, this is the normal behavior. Basically, the way the webinar is set up is that all you folks who are in as attendees have less stuff than normal, but we just have the normal. There's nothing magical among there.
So Josh, to answer Rabbi Irit Prince's question, how did we get the raise hand and Q&A on a menu bar? She says, I have Zoom Pro, but haven't seen how to add these options. That's another webinar function?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the Q&A has been in a regular one. I've seen it before, but I can't promise that. That said,
you know what? But maybe what you can do, Irit, is send us a screenshot of what you see.
Yeah.
Because I know I didn't have it, and it was something where I had to show it. It may be in view. So if you want to, you can just send that to us afterwards. We'll try to help you walk you through it.
And somebody just said that raise hand and clap are reactions in a regular Zoom meeting. Thank you, Donna. And then the other thing that I want to say is, if you're running a Seder, you don't need Q&A, really. You don't need raising hand, you could also, like, we tend to, like, if the 4 of us are Zoom, we just go, hey, call on me.
Hi.
Yeah, the old school method. It's this, and yes, with the free version of Zoom, you can share screens. The host, I know, can set the rules on whether or not other people can, but yes, you can share screens. And honestly, almost every one of the questions you have, you're going to go and play with this. You're going to pick one friend and you're going to have like drinks with your buddies that you haven't gotten to see, or non-poker poker night where you're just talking instead of playing poker. And you're going to practice and you're going to go, oh, I get it. It's really a function of doing this one time and it'll all make sense.
Josh, we're getting another question. Once your 40 minutes are up on the free version, if you want to resume the Seder, do you need to schedule a new Zoom meeting, or is it still the same link, same everything?
If you're going to go the free way, I think the thing that you could do is that you could ostensibly set up a meeting every 30 minutes and then just start the new one and send it out to people in advance. That just seems complicated. Stephanie's making the no, don't do that face. And I really agree.
No, but the question is if you only want to do 2 of them, if you want to do 2 40-minute meetings.
Right, you could.
Is it a new meeting ID and a new password?
Well, that's the thing.
I think it is.
It would be. It is a separate meeting. So that, that's the little bit of a rigmarole that you have to go through if you do it. Which is why, again, it's only $15, but it's $15. I really
you would have spent $15 on
$15 to
dump
get rid of half of the
belly for your uncle. So
like take that out of the Afikoman pool, and you're good.
And plus, as someone writing in right now say, it would be nice to support Zoom. You know what? Yes, it would.
I think they're okay.
Made a difference in
guys, how do we do couple of things? One is how do we do Afikoman search?
Well, here Liel has a whole great thing about how he would do it, but let me tell you how I would do it, because it's how I would do it even if we were all in the same place. And Stephanie can't unmute herself, so I'm going to unmute her. She was trapped. See, she chatted me in another way.
Oh my God, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Guys, I've been just sitting here in silence for the longest time.
That's typical at a Seder for you, right?
Sorry, what were we talking about?
I don't know, but we're about to hit our 40-minute limit, so we might as well keep it moving.
I've already cashed in my $15, so we're okay. To do the Afikoman, I don't ever do just a little bit of Afikoman. I always make sure there's more pieces and there are kids who are going to go look for it and hide them in lots of fun places, so it becomes more of a that thing. So there's no reason that in each home somebody can't hide 2 things and just send everybody off to go do it.
You have 2 choices here. It's the same, by the way, for things like B'tikat Chametz, the search traditionally with a feather and a candle for pieces of unleavened bread that you hide all around the house the night before Passover to make sure that you go over every nook and cranny and that the house is clean. First of all, that's another great opportunity to do a test run Zoom the night before Passover. You could do one or 2 things. You could either say at that moment, okay, we're going to stop and everyone searches in their own house to give the people present kind of a real live feel. Or you could do something which I think is quite fun, especially if the leader or either one, if one person lives in a house that was traditionally the place where everyone went to, it's like grandma's house, everybody knows that house so well, you could ask grandma to hide the afikoman somewhere, and then basically say, okay, well, where is it? And if grandma's comfortable walking around with a laptop, or if she has Zoom on her phone or wherever it is, to walk around the house, and people kind of say like, go look under the couch, go look, you play hot cold, which could be kind of fun.
So I have another suggestion, which is that part of the afikoman tradition is hiding the matzah and finding it. But the second part of the tradition is the auction part of it, where you negotiate the prize. Maybe this year we could focus, and a lot of us have focused so much on the hiding part that we forgot about the auction negotiation part. Maybe this is one of those years where we could flip it, and we could actually focus less on who found what and more on having a fun negotiation and seeing who can argue for what prize with whoever the leader is. So
I love it. And Barbara here has a suggestion. We hide the afikoman mentally anyway, she writes, somewhere in history. It's like 20 questions. Everyone asks a question until someone guesses it. Like we hit it on the moon. I love that.
That's great. And the leader asks questions,
that's great.
And whoever answers the most questions then gets to negotiate. I mean, I think you can have fun with this, but this is another example of like why an hour's worth of thought and preparation before that day will go a long way toward making you feel really good about it.
I spent the other night, again, I brought this up because I legitimately did it with 4 of my usual poker buddies who I can't go play with, playing with all the aspects of how Zoom works, trying to break it, trying to figure out all the silly stuff. So I figured out how I can be on The Office, or I can be in something far more terrifying. And so, or, something else. And what we've discovered is you'll find neat tricks and things to do. Somebody figured out how to play videos behind them and mess with it. And so you'll sort of, it feels scary because we haven't done it. So just do it and then you'll be all right. Jerome asked how you can see all the participants and not just the speaker. There's a button in the top right corner of your screen part that lets you switch between speaker view and gallery view. That should do what you want it to do.
I also want to say, like, Zoom is the mechanism. It's not the Seder. I mean, we're just, if we didn't have Zoom, we'd all call each other on speakerphone, on our landlines, or a conference call and do this. Like, I know this is like a little stressful. I mean, I'm stressed in this session, and like just learning what do I do this, like, and what happens if, we FaceTime with my family and my grandparents on their iPad, like couldn't see, the screen wasn't shuffling. And it's really hard when you're not with someone to explain something that is probably a simple fix, but when you don't know how to do it, I mean, it's hard. So I just think that we should just have someone in charge of Zoom and no one else think about Zoom, right? Like everyone just have it set up and have it functioning, and just, unless you're me who gets muted like all the time, which I'm just taking as like a personal, it happened again. How mean are you guys? I was gonna put up my
Josh keeps muting you. He's doing it.
I just the once.
Anyway.
Hey, Bonnie, by the way, thank you for the nice words. This is what's fun.
Maybe feel the power of being the Zoom leader. Right. Let it go to your head.
There can be only one.
Settles so many family scores. Decades of resentment. All right, friends, we've hit our limit.
I'm taking a selfie of this.
Any other thing you want to ask us?
Well, there's one last.
We'll be back.
There's one last Q&A thing from Donna Gershenwald, who does point out correctly that, like myself, I could appoint Stephanie right now as I could promote her to host if I wanted to.
So then I can help manage the tech.
And you can have more than one person host or co-host. And apparently there are a ton of really good training videos right in the support section on Zoom. Don't hesitate to avail yourself of that, which everyone else is. But again, just to rewind, the Seder is what matters. The Zoom glitches don't matter. And just have a good time and haggle really well for the afikoman, I think.
Okay, guys.
All right, friends. Shalom.
I just
So-
want to a couple of things. Two quick things. One is the tablet Haggadah, which is a very, very highly designed and really well thought through book. We did not think we were going to be able to get a PDF version up online, but it turns out our amazing publishers, Artisan, our friends at Artisan, managed to get one up. So if you go to bit.ly, bit.ly/tablet Haggadah PDF. Is that right, Steph? So tablet Haggadah, by the way, Haggadah is spelled Hagggadah, PDF. You can download tablet Haggadah. You can send that link around to everyone so you're all using the same one. And the last thing is just like every single time, I'm just going to repeat it again. Keep sending us your questions. The easiest way to do it is at haggadah@tabletmag.com. But you can also use all the other various ways on Facebook and Twitter.
And we'll be back later this week. Tomorrow we'll be talking about food. We have a bunch of different themed things. We will do a bunch of Q&As next week when we get closer to it. But tune back in 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.